Oh, hey, it's one person. Oh, okay, shit, I didn't. Okay, um, I guess whoever's watching, if you wanna, if you'd like to say a few words or offer your own opinion, I'm all for it. But otherwise, like, I guess I should start talking and wait for you to say something. Maybe. Why is my camera so bad? Not a camera, so I'm a microphone. My microphone sucks. This laptop is like 5 years old. As I always say, all I had to do was make the right choice 5 years ago, but 5 years ago, me wouldn't have made the right choice anyway. Oh, okay. All right. So, well, I guess some random joined and they don't care. So, all right, whatever. Okay, it looks like the same person's. Oh, it's Copa Rope. Thick white touches. Damn, I was gonna actually like dump this live stream, but you came. Um, I mean, basically, I mean, you guys already aware of this. I mean, especially you, right? Um, essentially, I guess you could call it the purpose of the modern man is essentially to consume, to keep the market propped up and circulate money back into the economy. Um, although obviously these days you don't really need to consume as much, so to speak, because the market's already heavily manipulated and it's essentially in the hands of a few large companies and very wealthy individuals who can, they can change the market at will. I mean, that includes, the president, includes Donald Trump, right? Like previously, during the war with Iran, which is still ongoing, right? Trump would say something like, "Oh, we opened the Strait of Hormuz, or we made a peace deal," and then the market would, would rally, even though clearly that was not happening, right? Like it's not really like you consume and it keeps the economy afloat. It's more like you consume and the oligarchs who are taking control of the economy will benefit. And because they're still benefiting from you just mindlessly buying stuff, then they will allow you to continue to buy stuff. Until, of course, their grand little AI project succeeds, at which point they don't really need consumers. They don't really need people to go, subscribe to Netflix or buy another gym membership or pay for a vacation to, the Philippines or something. They don't need that anymore, right? Because they have a computer. They have a supercomputer or essentially a network of supercomputers that they can use to do whatever they want or increasingly do what they like, right? Like manufacture stuff or um, I don't know, maybe like grow people in labs or, produce the best genetically engineered food or whatever, right? Like they will need way less people to fulfill these functions. And if they need less people, right? A lot of people already don't exactly work jobs that seem to contribute anything. Like, yeah, I understand we need secretaries, all right? And we technically need people in HR and stuff, but I mean, you could just automate them, right? Even people who work at a gas station, you can just put a fucking robot behind the counter. It'd be the same thing. It all almost like the same thing. I mean, yeah, people would miss the human aspect, but like if you can go in and get your thing and leave, it's not a bad deal, right? Like half the time people make small talk with a cashier. It's like, oh, how are you? How's your day? And then they talk about stuff, and the cashier's clearly just like, yeah, 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 I don't give a shit. Let me do my job. There's another person behind you. But we're gonna put on social niceties and fake it. With a robot, that's gone, but you know what you're getting. It's like, come here, pay for your beer, we'll say, bye. There's more and more needs and homeless people than ever, or at least that what it seems to me who consumes very little. Yes, that is true. There are more and more needs and homeless people. Yeah. I would say a large part of that is again circling back to my earlier analysis. Again, like the economy is not as heavily based on people actually consuming anymore and pumping money into it, more so than just a bunch of oligarchs manipulating the whole thing and taking up a large share of it. And also a bunch of fools who fall for anything that a celebrity or a particularly wealthy individual says. Like these guys don't have to know what they're doing. They just have to have a lot of money and be able to make a lot of dough and be very good at, either scamming people or really exaggerating something. And yeah, people lap it up like a dog laps up water, right? Like a lot of people, I'd argue that the reason there's more neets and homeless people, and homeless in part because, I mean, COVID there certainly did not help, and the oligarchies were able to really get a lot more power after the pandemic, to buy up housing and the such. So, a good amount of people likely realize, like, oh shit, I can't afford as much as I used to. My wages are not keeping up. Prices are rising. I can't afford this. And eventually, because maybe they didn't have a very good job in the first place, or maybe they're already coping with existing issues, through substance abuse, maybe a combination of a bunch of stuff, they ended up homeless. And needs, half the reason they ended up as needs is essentially they realized this is bullshit. No house, no family, no real future, nothing. You're basically doing this for nothing except to huff copium. I mean, using me as an example, right? Like I'm not ever going to do shit. You know, like me earning money at a job right now, like, is that a bad thing? No, it is not a bad thing. But okay, so what do you want me to spend it on? Like soda, chips, something? Again, even people, average people that I'm aware of, again, like Fred, he hasn't fucking spent money on anything. I don't think he's left the country since his family paid for his last vacation. I mean, he's worked essentially his entire life. Not his entire life, but he started working in high school. And he's basically gone through all the milestones that you should, but now he can't afford shit. And he doesn't even want to drive far because gas is expensive. I mean, this guy goes to fucking Costco. He gets like a slight discount. And it's still like not a good price for him. The JH daycare jobs are basically UBI for Foids. Their jobs don't need to exist for some autism with ChatGPT and Excel could do the job like 10 Foids. I mean, essentially, yeah. Basically, half of these like secretarial administrative jobs is a computer could do it. I mean, half the time, I like before. I'm not trying to like say they're like totally useless, but like half the time I'd go up to them and be like, "Hey, can I ask you something?" And they'd immediately reroute me to another department, or be like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry." What the fuck are we paying you then? You're just fucking sitting there doing like fuck all. Like, what? What's your purpose here? Like, hey, listen, I'm gonna be at least like pulling wires and running pipes in the future to make sure your lights stay on. You're sitting by these lights playing games on your laptop. Like, I mean, I remember when I was in school, like right, like the secretaries of the front desk, like they would spend half their shift just yapping to each other, and I was just pissed. It's like, what? This isn't fair. This is bullshit. You get to spend 8 hours a day doing practically nothing and still get paid, and I get to break my body for the next like 50 or so years, and by that time we'll probably have fucking robots taking over half my job. It's like what the fuck is this? You know? But yeah, I would certainly agree that to a large extent. Um, I wonder why that guy's here. That's weird. I would certainly agree that to a large extent. A lot of jobs that exist today are kind of like quote unquote adult daycare. Like they don't actually produce anything meaningful, or at least they don't really contribute that directly to the economy. So, you know, we just have them, I think, to keep people busy and prevent them from, either losing their mind or thinking too much. I have noticed that women are pretty good at these jobs. I mean, I would argue in large part because women tend to be more social than men. And if half the job involves socializing with your coworkers and talking about your new baby or whatever, then I mean, hey, perfect fit right for you. I would also argue to a degree that again, it is better in a sense. If you want to go conspiratorial, it is better to have two people working, to have the man and the woman working, because this way, right? This way they're busy, they're stressed, or they're beat down, or at the very least, they have less time away from home. So that, if they have children, then the children who will basically already be going through state-sponsored education, school, right? Elementary, middle, or maybe mash those together, right? High school, university, can be more easily molded by the system to become pliant, obedient consumers until the same consumers ignorantly allow a machine to run all over them. I mean, there's a reason they're building data centers. Like apparently the amount of computing power that all these data centers, at least in just the United States, are racking up. Like, it's like what is it? It's like millions of gigabytes, possibly, which is hundreds of thousands of DVDs or maybe millions of DVDs. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but it's a huge fucking amount. And it's obviously sucking up a big load of like sucking up a ton of electricity and water. And if I tried talking about this to the average consumer, to the average person, right? Their response would basically be, "Oh, that's so cool. I heard about them. That's what they power ChatGPT with." Or "Oh, it's so sad. They're draining up all the water of these poor people," or something like that. They don't actually give two fucks. They don't care. They either have no fucking idea or they don't give a shit. I mean, to be fair, it's not entirely wrong to not give a shit because you can't really do anything about it, and there will always be enough people who are complacent enough to do nothing. But it kind of just speaks to the average person. Like a lot of people, at least for now, the dream, the quote unquote dream, still works well enough. Either they're struggling too hard to give two fucks, or they're good enough that they're comfortable, they don't want to think about it, or they're so rich that they just don't have to think about it because they're insulated as shit. Those are basically the three categories. Also, women who work tend to don't have children or best have one autistic baby at the age of 38. Low. I don't know about the veracity of that, but again, if you want to go conspiratorial on that, the less children that people have, the smaller a population there is, and the smaller the population is, the easier it is to control, to influence, right? Imagine trying to wrangle like 10 million people versus 2 million. 2 million is obviously a lot easier. Again, this is if you're going conspiratorial, which I would argue is not entirely false. If you do want to assume increased power, right? Call the population and extend influence over the youth, or the future as we call them, which is really stupid. Like, honestly, like all these ads that I see about like, oh, we're working to build a better future for our children. Oh, we're gonna build back better or whatever. No, you are not. You are not building back better for jack fuck. Your roads get potholes every year, okay? And you spend like 6 months trying to fix like 3 holes. Well, there's 5 guys and 1 guy's doing all the work, and 5 guys are standing around watching them dig a fucking hole that's like 3 feet deep. This is about corruption and money laundering and trying to squeeze as much out of the system as possible, or essentially trying to squeeze as much out of the average consumer who, again, is either too ignorant, too fucked, or too insulated to care. Because most people, essentially, what they will just go is, "Oh, what can you do about it? This is just what happens. This is normal. This is fine. This is just how it is." And they just come to accept this. It's like, really? I mean, yes, historically, it has only been a small percentage of people who actually rebelled and rose up. But it kind of seems like no one really wants to do anything other than pretend. Like my one friend, I think he's pretty truthful when he said this. And he basically said that, all you can really do at this point is just to huff a bunch of hopium and just pray it all works out, because you can't do jack shit. And it's like, this guy knows ball. They won't advocate higher population. They want high population because it advocates for mass migration. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the making number of white people smaller. I would argue personally that they don't really give a shit if you're white or black or whatever, or yellow or whatever. Like, they don't care. Ultimately, these people do not give a shit what color you are. They see you as human meat. You're a resource. You're not a person. You're not a race. You're human meat. Better yet, you're a fucking like identification number. You don't matter. If we're gonna roll with that line of thinking, though, let's just roll with it, right? White people, in theory, tend to either go blue collar or white collar, and they tend to be like relatively organized. They tend to like historically they've tended to organize very well. They've created a lot of movements, a lot of resistance, and they've built a lot of infrastructure and achieved a lot of technological developments. They did obviously build off the back of Asia. The issue with Asia and also the Middle East, which some help came from Asia and the Middle East, like they basically either had no competition or they tribalized and essentially fought each other internally. So the white people, they also fought each other internally, right? If you count them as like a whole like conglomerate, but these countries also competed against each other for dominance, for supremacy, and because they kept competing, right? They started developing more and more technologies, to keep pace with each other, and eventually the new world, blah blah blah. That's just a very oversimplified version of history. So if you knock down that group, right, you crush them, then you have everyone else who is more tribalized. Like historically, these groups have been more tribal or more willing to bow down to authoritarian, regimes, in part because that part of the world has a lot more centralized power. Then you will have an easier time asserting control of the population, right? A lot of Africa and the Middle East, right, and even some parts of Asia, again, no offense, there is a lot of tribal conflict, right? There are a lot of different ethnicities fighting each other, right? The Rwandan genocide, for instance, is 2 ethnicities who fucking hated the shit out of each other, right? Half the Middle East is, the Sunnis and the Shia, and then there's like the Bedouins and whatever. Like these guys have clashed for thousands of years, right? And Africa and Mali now, there's like the FLNIM or the whatever, and the Janine or some shit, and these guys are also different ethnicities, and they're fighting against the government, who is like another ethnicity, which is like half the reason why a lot of these nations have like historically had like centralized authoritarian states. When you have a million tribes like all like clashing with each other, you kind of need a strong government to like just go in and be like, okay, all right, everybody shut the fuck up. You all hate each other, but if you don't do what I say, you're going to hate me even more. So sit down. This is what we're doing. Right? And it really depends on how civilized you are. I would argue that civilization and modern technology, the one advantage of that is you're able to like numb people, right? Like you numb them with entertainment, which is kind of what I would argue has happened to white people a lot, as far as I've noticed. White people are increasingly more numbed by sports, which, starts to bring back those little tribal instincts, and drinking. Literally every white fucking person I know, or at least a lot of them, have done some drinking and have gone to watch sports games or cheered for a team or whatever. Or they still do those things. Right? You keep the population numb, you try to split them up, divide them, and then you bring people who are more accustomed to, doing, how should I say it? Doing what they're told, and generally just being disunited. Because if you bring a bunch of different tribes together and they're too busy fighting each other and causing chaos, then it's a lot easier for you to start exerting your own influence while everyone else is squabbling over like a piece of bread or something, That's my theory. I mean, I'm heavily extrapolating here, but that's my best guess as to why they want to bring in a lot of foreign immigrants. White people historically have been like relatively quote unquote united in their efforts, at least internally per nation, right? And I guess World War II kind of, made them like chill the fuck out a little bit, because otherwise they knew they were gonna, they were gonna murder the shit out of each other. And now people, from the Middle East, from Africa, possibly from Asia, wherever, right? They're being brought in because historically, right? Historically, they have been, more disunited, again, more tribal, a lot more ethnic conflict. They bring that here, right? They start fighting each other. They start fighting, the people here. The people here get mad. It's all a clown show. It's all a clown show, in my opinion. This whole racial thing is a clown show. It's like, hey, look at the fancy puppets. Look at the fancy puppets. Look at them. And then they fucking send the Terminators to mop up the survivors. That's my opinion. Yo, Is QQ. So they're basically bringing these guys in on purpose to, or, allowing them in to destabilize the situation, get the population focused on something else, and then they can do whatever they want in the background. No one will notice, or no one will have the mental energy to care. And I'm not saying that people from, these nations, from Africa, from the Middle East, Asia, whatever, that they cannot adapt to the culture here. The main issue is that a lot of these immigrants that they're bringing in, they're not like requiring them to actually adapt to the new country that they're in. So these guys basically just continue with what they're already familiar with, which is the customs and habits of wherever they were before, which can be at times kind of messy. And I would argue without a more centralized state that has a lot harsher consequences if you start fucking around, right? Like over there, for instance, you get your hand chopped off or some shit. Then yeah, they kind of just lose their fear, and they decide, I can just piss about, and they're gonna indulge their base instincts. I mean, it's basically natural human behavior. It's basically they're doing what they understand, and they have more freedom to do whatever they want without any real rules or strong centralized authority coming down and telling them to stop. Stop. So yeah, of course, they're gonna cause problems, and them causing problems is useful because it gets the immigrants who are already naturalized and the white people who have been here for centuries to fight them. And then when both sides are done fighting each other, you win. You basically that's it. You two beat each other with sticks, you exhaust each other, and then I come in and beat you with the sticks, and I take all your shit. But yes, if we're being perfectly honest, like the West is heavily made up of immigrants as well. If you really go with that definition, like America was made by white immigrants. Canada, white immigrants, right? Many countries in Europe, they intermarry with each other, or they spread other people around. So in a sense, a lot of Europeans, white immigrants. The only difference is people who are more settled here understand the lay of the land versus people who have no fucking clue what's going on and don't give a shit. Why would you want to give even more power to the state that caused the problem in the first place? Well, that's kind of the point I'm making. That's what people are doing right now. The average person, I don't care if you're white or black or yellow or whatever or fucking purple. What the average person, or what I would argue the average normie is doing right now is basically just giving more power to the state that caused the problem in the first place. Because like fucking 50 to 70% of them don't even realize that the state is causing the problem in the first place. As far as they're concerned, the state is maintaining their quality of life, so they don't give a shit. They don't care. If it's not in your doorstep, you don't give a fuck. That's just how humans are. Humans are pretty short-sighted. Honestly, we're still running on caveman software, which makes us pretty easy to manipulate. So yeah, I'm basically calling people dumb or retarded, if you will. I mean, I'm not saying I'm intelligent. I'm pretty low on the totem pole of IQ, but I mean, it's not terribly difficult to tell that the people up top do not care about you. Otherwise, they might be doing a great deal of things to improve your life, which they are not. So most people are essentially they're indirectly allowing the state more power to abuse. And they are just going to carry on with their lives and do whatever it is that they do. Like, don't expect a revolution. Don't even expect a civil war. Do not expect anything much to come out in the next few years. Like all these protests, these rallies, like it's not going to do shit. It ain't going to do jack fuck. What you can expect is more centralization of power by the state, increased state powers, possible martial law, and eventually the introduction of centralized means of, controlling people's identities and movements and finances and everything, right? As they call it, CBDC, UBI, whatever. Because these guys have been up at the top for so long, they become incredibly disconnected from the people they're supposed to govern, and they don't care anymore. And they probably also realize that this is a giant circus, and the average person is too stupid to do anything about it. So if you're in their position, why the fuck wouldn't you exploit that? If the sheep are just going to let themselves be eaten, then why not eat to your heart's content? Why the sheepdog's fucking drinking like 15 Coors Lights and watching, the Toronto Maple Leafs all the time. He doesn't care. Nothing ever happens as law. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Stuff happens. But for the regular person, nothing will ever happen. Until, of course, you count, centralization of power. Then that's something happening. My argument is that things happen very slowly nowadays. They happen slowly. They happen more insidiously. They're more dragged out. And you will basically notice things increasing in intensity until finally you kind of hit that moment where everyone's like, oh shit, what the fuck? This is bad. But by the time, the whole nothing ever happens part evaporates, it's like it's too late. It's too late. It's over. You had time before to do something about this. You're out of time. So shut up. Shut up and bow down. That's all you can do now. I mean, I'd argue the main reason nothing ever happens here is because we're heavily insulated by two oceans and the government is relatively stable, right? Like, if you look at certain countries and nothing ever happens, it's bullshit because something is happening a lot. But, because of our geographic position and because of the fact that our nations have, how shall I say, we have been able to numb ourselves extremely well with consumerism and materialism. Don't expect shit to happen. Life is going to roll on and you'll notice it getting harder and harder and harder. And no. Now it's next to impossible. But yeah, people will just immediately adapt to that and just put their heads back down after yelling and screaming and crying for like 5 seconds and go back to work. Like Iran or Ukraine, yeah. Like over there, stuff is happening, right? Ukraine, the war is still going on. Uh, Iran is, still under, still technically being struck occasionally, right? The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. So over there, stuff is happening. Even over there, it's more of a low intensity thing. Like it's not like everywhere. It's not total, right? Like I'd argue it depends on where you are. Like if you're north, I would say if you're in northern Iran, specifically like northeast Iran, right? Like near the border with Russia, nothing much is happening. Or if you're in like Western Ukraine, like life is still pretty okay. But if you're in the east, or if you're near the coastline of Iran, or like maybe in central Iran, then yeah, you're kind of fucked. Like stuff is happening every day in your face. Normies love these pointless wars. That depends. I would argue most people now do not want to fight wars anymore. The only reason these wars are able to continue going is because technology. It depends on which normie you're talking about. The people of Iran have more, how should I say, they have more religious backing, like they're more fanatical in a sense, and are more willing to resist. And they're also pretty pissed. Like they also hate America even more because again, America directly attacked them. If someone attacked you, right? Someone directly attacked your nation, or at least basically attacking you and your family, whatever, like you would hate them too. So you would also want to fight. For Ukraine, same thing, right? The Russians have attacked them. They want to fight. The Russian, military, a lot of these guys are contract soldiers. They're being paid to go and fight. So they don't really love the war. They're doing it because, they want to earn more money. And the economy is kind of being fucked by the war. So you might as well get a big paycheck. Like for some of these guys, it's more money than they'll ever earn. And it is a lot of like rural folks. In Ukraine, it's partly, the whole nationalism, patriotism thing. Although I'd argue Ukraine is it's basically like heavily subsidized by the West and NATO, so it's not really much of a state anymore as it is like a proxy. Like maybe like the western half of it will persist, but the eastern half not so much. It's going to be economically wrecked. Like trying to rebuild is going to take years, like forever. Life is me. Yes, copium. Life is you. You are life. Life is copium. So most normies don't love the pointless wars, AZQQ. They just don't care. So by not caring, they basically allow it to keep happening. Like, they'll bitch and moan and scream, "My gas prices! This isn't right. We shouldn't be the world police." But at the end of the day, they're not going to do anything. Like they're going to do jack fuck. So it's the pointless wars are going to go on. It's kind of the same thing as loving it, I guess. Yes, thick white Duchess. Exactly. There you go. See, bingo. This guy's a winner. Yeah, see, they don't care unless it affects them personally. That's what I've been trying to say. And yeah, some like the virtue signal on being pro-Palestine or whatever. Yeah, they like the virtue signal, but like it's not going to do jack shit. If you really want to be pro-Palestine, then you probably have to go and fight the Israelis directly. I mean, no offense, but peaceful methods like trying to use like bills or protests or rallies or parades or whatever, it's not going to work. The system is designed to insulate against that and ignore those things. Long term, it might work, but by that time, enough damage will be done that you're not really going to be able to. It's not really going to matter, in my opinion. How do they defend Ukrainian men getting beat up and dragged off the street? One, they don't focus on that part. Two, they may see it as necessary to defend, the nation / defend democracy. A lot of people are saying Ukraine is basically like, oh, we're defending democracy. No, you're not. Ukraine is not entirely a democracy. Earlier during the war, large parts of the military were corrupt. Okay, and no offense to Zelensky, he's probably still hoarding wealth, to a degree, etc., for himself. And he was also a comedian. I don't really think a comedian knows that much about, leading an actual country. I wonder if he even like entered the election for like a fucking joke. He might actually have just entered it for a joke. I don't know. So they either gloss that over or they see it as a necessary preventative measure. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I mean, I could probably be pretty ruthless if I wanted to, but at least I'll admit that I don't care. These, I don't know. Let me tell you something. Belief is a powerful thing. Belief is a powerful tool. I can't really listen to this because my mom is visiting, so I can only type low. Wait. Let me guess, Copium. Wait, Copium, you don't have like headphones or something? Like earbuds or whatever? Like headphones or earbuds you could use? Um, yeah, I mean that is the thing with the older generation as well. Like, even like people, people, generally, born around the 60s, 70s, 80s, right? I would say people like starting from the 90s onwards are a little more aware, but I mean it's not universal, right? Like they'd already lived out enough of their youth in a system that was successful enough, to give them a life to allow them to, enjoy themselves and diddle about whatever. Um, so they're obviously never going to doubt that things will just work, right? Because if things are still working, then why the fuck wouldn't you want to? Why the fuck would you want to keep them that way? And like they're past the age, like how should I say it? I would argue that part of the reason is because they're kind of like old and crusty, so to speak. Like they've kind of ossified in their thinking and they've already like established a foundation for themselves. So they don't really care as much to engage with the outside world anymore as so much as to try and, make the most of the existence that they already have. Like they've already got themselves insulated. They had their fun, they had their experiences, they made their memories. Now they're on the path to like, dying. So they're basically trying to just, coast it out and have a relaxing trip out, I guess you could say. So yeah, they don't give two flying shits. Man, my throat hurts from talking so much. And talking loud too. Ugh. But yeah, for the sadly they're in my truck and it's pissing right. Oh shit. All right. Well, I typed anyway, but whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any questions? Like my throat hurts. I don't really want to talk or yell so loud anymore. Fuck. Okay, I actually yelled too loud. I don't know why when I do live streams, I start like talking really loud. And it sounds like I'm yelling, and then my throat just like, oh, we're gonna fail now, Panda. Hey, what's up, Burton? I'm live streaming again. I'm probably gonna go on for another like 10, 20 minutes. Then I'm gonna get off because I got like chores and shit to do. I guess we'll talk about me now. I would personally argue that I should probably do a lot more research for my videos and actually look up like more evidence and stuff. She's a mid-tier normie, but she's semi-retired. She has her own soap making business. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean that makes sense. I mean, even with mid-tier normies, like their lives are still doing well. Like they're still doing successful enough. And yeah, if she has a soap making business, she's probably having a good time. Um. Oh, okay. Whoa. Everybody just. I don't know if my viewer count just dipped or everyone just left or whatever. Nah, this is weird. Um. I probably should do a lot more research into my vids and my content. Like I was saying before, I just don't because I don't know. It's just on one hand, I think the algorithm is suppressing my content, and on the other hand, I don't know, it just kind of feels like a little pointless. Because I mean, at the end of the day, right, I'm only going to get a few comments on these videos. And, they are still comments from you guys who I don't actually know. You're really just strangers online, or should I say usernames and profile pictures online. So, I'm kind of still like alone. Obviously, I will have no real quality of life, whether I work or not. Whatever money I do make, which is going to be a measly amount, right, is basically just going to, like I said, it's going to be spent on coping, right? Junk food, drinks, you know, or more practical stuff like paying off a few, bills here and there. And like, I don't have the money for a car, right? And we're not even talking like insurance or other upfront fees. So I am not gonna be like traveling anywhere on my own ever. And I'm pretty much gonna spend the rest of my life and until they turn Skynet on, just slowly dying. So it's pretty demotivating to kind of know that the best part of your life was ironically when you were a teenager, and that it's now basically over, and it was probably always going to be over anyway. If you get unlucky in this life, you really can get fucked. And the people who get unlucky and then somehow make it, no offense, I think to a degree they also get lucky later. That's my opinion. I'm not saying they don't actually like, have to burn a lot of sweat and tears for it, but they do also get lucky later. Like you can start out unlucky, but if you do get lucky later, then you can kind of, quote unquote, pick yourselves up by your bootstraps and make something of yourselves. But if you just don't and like nothing really changes, no matter how hard you like keep trying, then you should probably just accept your place at the bottom of the pecking order. The BP sphere is pretty saturated now. It's just hard to, yeah, it is. Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, it is pretty saturated. Like, there's a lot of content creators out there, including like Cat Flying, who have way more interesting stories than mine, and they are way better at like, telling stories and stuff. So I'll admit that, like, again, I'm admitting that I suck, but again, I'm not really getting anything much out of this, and I don't really have anything to talk about because I'm kind of a hermit. Like, even in the summer when I worked, I was still a hermit, so there was nothing really for me to say. I don't entirely have full control of my own time either, so there's not really much I can do other than repeat the same old shit over and over, including what I hear and what I see. But it's just a very limited amount. I want to venture off in the woods and never return. Yeah, so do I. I mean, easier said than done. This isn't like the 1700s or the 1800s. What? Leave this live up, please. I can't watch it right now. The only reason I'm privating this shit is because I don't want YouTube to fucking murder me. Because I am saying somewhat offensive stuff. So like, if this channel gets struck a third time, I will not be able to make content here anymore. I mean, that is kind of why I've made two other channels, right? Like when the one channel didn't make, Possum of Pain, it only has 9 subscribers. Like you guys are probably gonna want to subscribe like to that one. Because that's the one I'll be uploading on if this one gets, taken down. It's like a backup. How's Fred and the gang doing? Fred right now, he's doing a course to help him get a banking job, maybe. He's trying to, do it as fast as possible. Otherwise, he's spending a lot of hours working at Shoppers. And he basically just doesn't do anything. Like he basically just watches YouTube and scrolls Instagram, and that's about it. YouTube, Insta, Shoppers, it was a little part-time job and his course. And most of the money that he does make from Shoppers is basically just going entirely to his card, the payments, the gas, to insurance, like whatever. Or his folks are demanding money from him, so it's his paycheck essentially evaporates really fast. The other two, right, they're gonna help out at some, clinics, do some volunteering stuff, right? They have family connections. They're trying to get into medical. I think Hutch is he's starting his teaching job soon, so he'll be earning like $30 an hour and he doesn't even have to work the full day. Um, which is not bad. Like I will be earning $30 an hour, but I have to wait 5 years to be able to earn that kind of money. He's gonna be earning that right away. I mean, I can increase my paycheck to more than 30, right? I could probably, boost my paycheck to like 40 an hour. But again, if we're talking like 5 years later, that's 2031. I'm not really sure if even like $40 is gonna get you anywhere by then. Like we will probably be totally fucked by that time. So it doesn't really matter how much money you earn because the money will likely be worthless or digital. So whatever money I make now is just gonna be very cheap stuff, and whatever money I make in the future is called I'm not making any. My previous raccoon name, raccoon from the lagoon or whatever. I'll listen to a live light to hear what you're saying. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm not really saying anything new, Copium, so I guess that's fine. I'll leave the live up for a bit, maybe forget that I left it up, but hopefully YouTube doesn't demonetize me. So I should probably make a video about it, just in case, which I will be doing once I get off the stream. I might finish the stream in like 10 minutes or so. I will admit that I am pretty much demotivated most of the time. Okay, suddenly I have 2 viewers. That's all right. So like, like I like the idea of, being able to do stuff, which I mean, this has been in my entire life, but I don't actually like take the effort to, do anything. So I kind of just end up a nobody. And I mean, before I had the time and the opportunity to do that stuff. Now it's kind of hard to, because I'm a lot more aware of the world now. Like I'm not as ignorant as I used to be, and being more of the aware of the world equals being aware more of how fucked it is, and being more aware, especially of how everybody I used to know. Right, some of these guys are like they were really dumb. They were even dumber than me in school, and they're suddenly really successful now, and I am a loser. Like especially being aware of that is really fucking painful. Like even if I stopped keeping track of what people were doing, like it would still like it was like I know now. I can't just like throw that away. So even it would still be in the back of my mind, like, hey, this guy was fucking an idiot, and he can afford to go to like Hong Kong right now for the vacation for a week, and you can't afford even like you can't even afford a fucking like bike. So yeah, just knowing that and letting that rest in the back of my mind, and knowing that I'll never have any real quality of life. It's just it's kind of like humans are creatures of incentive. We want to return on investment. And if it's like, I'm not going to get a return on my investment, what's the fucking point in trying? Like, what am I trying so hard for? Like, nothing? To just be humiliated some more? To be shit on some more? Because every job I ever worked, I was just shit on. I was the fucking idiot. I didn't know what I was doing. I was treated like trash. I was given the worst jobs. In part, yes, because I actually did not know what I was doing. But I was always just the guy to get kicked around. So, it's like, really? So I'm just gonna be undergoing like, so basically 40 hours a week for the next like 4 or 5 years, until whenever everything falls apart. I'm basically going to be enduring a humiliation ritual. The return will be nothing or very little. So yeah, that's great. I mean, again, I'm not saying I'm gonna be jobless forever. I do eventually have to find some kind of work. I have a few ideas. Um, at which point, yeah, I will probably be making a lot more videos because I will have new experiences to talk about, and because I will be way more miserable than I am now. If they don't have a life partner and kids that are loose, traveling is cope. If they don't have a life partner and kids that are also losers, and cons that are also losers, and kids. What do you mean by that, thick white Dutch? What the fuck? Did everybody actually leave this stream? Because it's saying I have 0 viewers now. What the fuck? What's going on here? Is YouTube just shadow banning you guys? Like, wow. What? How's there no one watching? What the hell? Did you guys get booted or something? Because I didn't do shit. This is weird. I don't know. Maybe everyone's getting bored, so that's why they're leaving. Oh boy, now it's 0 again. Well, you know what? I don't know what happened, but since that's happening, I guess I'll just cut the stream here and go off and do my own thing. My throat does kind of hurt now. I've yelled too loud. I honestly feel like I'll be a lot better bouncing off of other people, but I don't have anyone else to bounce off of, so I'm just kind of talking to a camera and looking like I'm a loon, which I kind of am. All right, well, I'm not going to waste my time anymore or yours. You probably have better things to do since you're all leaving. So, bye.